hours and hours and hours on end, and all I can say is thank you, Jesus, for Girl Scout cookies and peanuts, because that's kind of what we've survived on for the last 4 or 5 days. But I would like to thank Jack and Melody and Brent for their work as we've worked through the weekend on trying to work out some differences, and thank our staff, Christine and Martha, and all of our House Budget and Research Office, and of course Senate Budget and Evaluation Office. And then there's 2 people at the end of the table down here that we want to thank as well, Chris and Teresa, and especially our governor. It has been a pleasure from my standpoint to work with these 2 individuals and our governor for the last 8 years and in the budgeting process, and a lot of good memories. I remember our first year we wound up at the mansion one night, ate Chinese takeout on China, and met with the governor that night and walked through that first year, and it helped us better understand how he looked at things and his priorities, and I think helped him better understand our priorities and how we looked at things as well. And it's been a very good partnership, and we have certainly enjoyed it, really have. But you know, we come to you today with an agreement on a budget, and Mr. Chairman, you want to say some opening comments, and then we kind of get into the meat, or you want me to go on through a little bit of meat, and then well, as the economy has continued to improve and state revenues have remained fairly strong, as we have conferenced on the budget, and Governor and Chris and Teresa have been working with us on that as well. The revenue estimate has been adjusted upward, almost $195 million. Most importantly within that, though, is $747,626 to fully fund the QBE formula for the first time in many years. We're excited about that and tickled, and again, incredibly thankful to our governor and his staff for helping make that possible. I know that that's been something on the minds of a lot of our members, both in the House and Senate, for the last several years, and I'm just thankful that we're able to get to that point. As we go through as you go through the document, you're going to see that in many ways most of the House and Senate priorities are in some form or fashion or version of what they were when they left both chambers. We were able to come to compromise positions on many of those issues, including a lot of the rural development programs that were kind of a House initiative this year, to the tune of about $40 million on things to help our state outside of the metro area, but most importantly, the largest industry in our state, and that's agriculture. Another addition that in working with the governor's office has been an addition of $100 million in bonds for transit as we continue to work toward day 40 and looking for an agreement there on our transit bills. We felt that it's important to put some dollars there to back up our policy and our position on that policy, and help Georgians get around, get to work, to school, to grocery shopping, or wherever they need to go, and allow them to have more time with their families and a little bit less time on the roads, hopefully. So, Mr. Chairman, I'll turn the mic over to you for you to make some comments.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let me reiterate what you said a few minutes ago about our 2 staffs that have worked with us. That really is the grease that makes the whole thing work very well, and I appreciate it very much. Obviously, the help of the governor and his staff, and Chris and Teresa is remembering years when we didn't have it. It sure makes it makes a marked difference when we've got cooperation, and sure makes the whole thing easier. I jotted down what I call top 10 reasons to like the 2019 budget. I won't go over them all, but you touched on some of the changes that were brought to us in conference as well. But there are a number of reasons to like what we're doing in the state, and some of them are not really sexy. Some of them are meeting human needs and meeting programs that help in behavioral health and programs that help those children and the areas that sometimes don't get a lot of publicity, but yet in the world that we live in, it's things that we feel obligated to try to help improve, and I think this budget does that. Just to touch on a couple of other items, the House put in $8 million in school safety bonds. The final conference version has twice that, has $16 million in school safety bonds, which we hope is going to make a tremendous difference in the safety of schools, which continues to be something that unfortunately we need to put time and attention to. So I salute the House for their leadership in that as well. We made a promise last year to raise foster care rates to $10 a day. We've made good on that promise in this budget, which is a pretty expensive item as well. Something the Senate had done some work on is fleshing out our drug task force. Forces the GBI is set up to help fight the opioid crisis and other drug abuse situations, and we've funded a little over about $3 million on that fight as well. Also, a substance abuse recovery program in behavioral health. We got a $4 million program to begin that. That's the weak link in the opioid crisis is recovery. And one of the other areas that touches on that is the mental health crisis beds that we're short of. We've funded $6 million for 2 additional crisis bed locations in the state as well. I say all that and then to point out, though, that our growth rate in the budget continues to be a very moderate, something a little over between 3 and right at 4%. For a growing state, I think that's a very moderate growth rate. Latest numbers I see is our growth in population is between 100 and 150,000 a year. Looks like we're going to grow in the next census over 10% for the 10 years. So that's growing a million people in that 10-year period. So I think that we're making a very good attempt to meet the basic needs of the people, and yet we're doing it with a very conservative budget growth. And I think that probably needs to be said. So with that, I'll close my comments and just thank everyone for their help and the advocates and agencies as well. We've had great cooperation, and I think we have a good relationship with them. But I'll ask my conferees if y'all have some comments to make.
I'll just say a couple of things. I want to give a special thanks to the governor in this case, and Mr. Riley, your help has been just fabulous in this budget. I think he has such a legacy to leave office after having struggled through the Great Recession with $2.5 billion in reserves that leaves us prepared for the next downturn, which is inevitable, and to have recovered fully on our funding to 100% fund our K through 12 education, and also higher education is fully funded to their formula, is just a really proud achievement. This is the best budget I've been a part of, and so happy. And as others have mentioned, there's lots of things for rural Georgia, a lot of things for health care, a lot of things for children and foster care. Criminal justice reforms are funded, and it's just a really good place for us to be. And I want to express our thanks for his leadership and financial stewardship. Also want to thank Chairman Hill. The hours that he puts into this are immeasurable. I share office suite with him, and there's rarely a day that I show up that he's not already there, or he's not there when I leave. And I think that attention to detail that he gives is certainly underappreciated. Same kudos to you, Chairman England. I caught you in the parking garage at 7:15 the other morning, and I don't know that you slept that night, but I knew you had a little spring in your step and a smile on your face, as you can certainly be proud. And the cooperation, I feel like both bodies got about 90% of what they wanted and compromised on the areas that we needed to compromise. And so I'm very proud of all the work that all of you have put into this. And I think the people of Georgia are going to be better served by this budget than they have been in many years.
Well, having worked on this budget, gosh, this 10th session. And I just have to thank you, Chairman England, and you, Bill, for just doing a great job. And not to parrot what the majority leader in the Senate said, I'm incredibly grateful to the two of you and to the governor for his leadership on just making sure we stayed the course through the bad times, the financial restraint that he demonstrated when there's so many who wanted more. And I think it's why we could end up with, I agree, the best budget we've had since Republicans have been in charge. And to fully fund the QBE, what a legacy after the bad times, the revenue shortfall fund, and the $100 million in bonds for transit, I think, are just really, I'm just grateful for that. Thank you.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Well, thank you, Chris and Teresa, for y'all's great work over the last few years. We appreciate you and wish you the best. So as time moves forward, and to mine's a simple thank you. This process is very complicated, as we all know, and two great staffs that work on this process. But I just say that for me, the confidence that I have in this document and the full document is really based on two things for me, and that's the integrity of these two gentlemen and the caring that they have for the people of Georgia and the responsibility that they take to heart, and they take with them not just the days of this session and through this process, but each and every day of the year. So Senator Hill, Chairman Hill, and Chairman England, thank you. As a Georgian, I want to say that to both of y'all. We appreciate y'all's work, and I think for all Georgians, you two gentlemen give confidence in this process, and we just thank you.
Bill, we knew some of the stories we tell while we're doing it. Yeah, we'll just keep. Well, I think we have some documents to sign, and we can conclude this portion of the process. Yeah, Martha. I'm part of pen. Jan needs one. One more for the books.